Hi, friends. It's Kayla Moran. Welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day or time it is that you're listening. So happy to be back on the mic with you guys. Cannot believe it is already the last week of October, the last full week, and next week is already November. But I'm excited because fall is here officially, and it's almost my birthday month. And you guys know, if you've been here for a while, that my birthday month to me is kind of when I start thinking of the new year, and it's my new year. And I start thinking of my goals and my intentions, and obviously business planning as well, thinking about Q1, going over all my numbers, tax planning, business planning, all of that. But I do it all together because I want my business and my life to align. I want my goals to encompass all of it. And, it's all me. And I want to make sure that I'm always intentional in my business and growing it towards a business that is sustainable and going to allow me to live the life that I want. That's the whole reason I pursued being an entrepreneur in the first place after law school. And speaking of law school, I'm actually going back to my law school tomorrow. As you guys are going to listen to this, I'll be on the plane to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm so excited to be back. I'm excited for the fall colors, to see my friends, my professors. I actually don't know many people that are still in Knoxville, only a handful, but I'm excited to see my professors and a couple of colleagues and friends that are up there in the professional sense, and just get a little breather. I'm staying an extra day to just decompress and have some alone time, and I'm really looking forward to being back in Knoxville. I honestly probably never thought that I would want to go back as often as I do, but I go back once a year and I miss it. I miss it so much. That person, that version of me, I hold a lot of love and space for her, and I'm just really proud of her. And I'm excited to go back to my old stomping grounds and kind of see if it feels different now that I'm technically a third-year attorney, which is crazy. Also, congratulations to any newly admitted lawyers. I know New York just found out today, the day I'm recording this. So I know for the most part, everybody already knows, the exception of a few states. So keep your chin up if you're still waiting, and congratulations to anyone who did pass. If you unfortunately did not pass, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I just want to say to you, hold space. Like, take a moment. You don't have to do anything for anyone. This is your time. Feel it, mourn it, cry, scream, yell, whatever you need to do that. Take the time for yourself. Give yourself that moment. And when you're ready, if you're going to make a game plan to take it again, or if you decided maybe this isn't for me anymore, whatever path you choose to take, it is totally valid, and it is okay to make that choice for yourself. Only you can make that choice. You know why you went to law school. You know why you want to be a lawyer. You get to decide. And if you are someone who is going to be retaking it, work on your mindset. Take inventory of what worked and what didn't work, what you can do differently next time, and build a new strategy, build a new plan. Work on your mindset. Confidence is a strategy. You guys know that was my mantra. Please take it. And I wish you all the best of luck in February and beyond. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm starving. I just served myself lunch and then thought, why not get this done really fast? Then I can take a quick lunch break and get back into contracts. Lots and lots of contracts, lots of new clients, which I'm so, so grateful for. And I have to pack tonight. Of course, I haven't done that yet. I'm going to do an Amazon Live pack with me. Go follow me over there if you aren't already, and come hang out with me on lives every once in a while, in addition to Instagram and TikTok, of course. And what else have I been up to lately? I got my hair done today to get ready for the trip. I just needed an hour and a half in the salon chair. The massage felt so good, and just to take a breather and not have to do it myself, because I have a lot of hair. It's a lot of work. I went to the chiropractor yesterday, and those are honestly two of my simple joys. Like, I will invest in that, a massage at the chiropractor, and getting my hair done, because I love doing my own hair and I don't mind doing it. And sometimes it's just easier for me to do it, but there's days where I don't have the energy to have my hands above my head for 2 hours. So I'd rather just have someone do it for me. And that way I'm able to do other things while I'm sitting there. But yeah, I've had so many contract consultations, a couple personal branding consults, which is fun, and some trademark consultations as well. Definitely business is growing, which I'm so happy about and so grateful, especially as we go into the holiday season and Q1. It's definitely really good to be busy now so I can plan for all the things I want to do with my business coming 2025. Lots of things I want to do, but definitely launching my website and the rebrand that I went under this summer was so necessary for me. And I'm sad that it took me kind of away from the podcast, but I really needed to focus on that. And I'm working on it, building up my newsletter and my LinkedIn presence. So, there's so many ways to find me on social media and on the internet now. And I will always love this platform, but I do think we are going to kind of start winding things down. And I've been holding back saying that for a bit, but I have a couple of amazing episodes for you guys for the next few weeks. And then going into the holidays, we will wind down and, maybe I'll do a couple here and there whenever I feel called to or have a really exciting guest opportunity, but I need to make more time in my life and space in my life for other opportunities. And that's the whole thing, right? That's what I preach about, is being intentional and building a life that you can market a bit, in a business that you can market by being yourself, and a life that you enjoy that will allow you to do everything you want to do. And I just need to reevaluate my priorities. And this summer was the absolute best opportunity to do that. And I'm really grateful that I had the ability to take a step back and do that. It wasn't easy. It never is. But I'm glad that I was able to do that. And, just law students coming to me and other lawyers coming to me and asking for advice, and, being proud of everything I've built and wanting to learn more about it so they can do the same in their lives. And, that to me fulfills me more than anything. And I love sharing that version of myself and that part of my life. And I want to continue doing more of that. So I'm just finding more and more ways to share the love and share everything I've learned. Whether it's, like I said, a newsletter, downloadable resources, an ebook one day, hopefully. Like, there's just so many things I want to do. Speaking engagements, panels, the Law Counseling Creators Conference dates for 2025 were released this week. I'm so excited to be back. And there's other conferences I want to go to. Also, Art Basel's coming up. So lots of fun events there. There's so much to look forward to in the next few months. And sadly, something's got to give. But I'm grateful that 3 years of the podcast and everything that has come with it, I could not imagine not having had this platform and everything that it has given me and everything that I've learned along the way because of the people that I met through this platform and the conversations that I had through this platform. And with all that being said, like I said, there's some really exciting conversations to come, and I can't wait. And I have an exciting one today for you guys, talking about evolutions in life and business and goals and law. I have Medha on the podcast today. She is someone that I met actually at the Counseling Creators Conference here in Miami back in February through a colleague of mine, Frank. And she's a law student in Cleveland, Ohio. And she came all the way down just to go to this conference. And we talk about how and why she does that in this podcast. And I think it's fascinating that she invested herself and is unapologetic about it and willing to go for it no matter what people think or say. And that's something that I have a lot of friends in a law school now do. And that's something that I didn't think to do back when I was in school. And I wish I would have known to do that. I would have been in New York every weekend or back in Miami every weekend for events and conferences. And of course, you could expense all that because it's an investment in yourself and in your business and in your career. And I love that we talk about this. She was a caterer. She had her own catering company and she's a home chef. And she did that for a decade, more than a decade before going to law school. Now she's wanting to be a lawyer in the creator economy and the entertainment industry. And we talk about all those different versions of her are her and how she went from one thing to the other and how one thing led her to the other. And I just think it's so fascinating to meet people that are so, especially women that are multifaceted and multi-passionate and have so much knowledge and, charisma and passion, and especially women of color. I I'm so glad that we got to meet. And I love seeing her posts on LinkedIn and her conversations. And we just had such an incredible conversation recording this. And I'm so excited for you to listen. So if you like this episode, please leave a rating and a review. Please subscribe to the show, share with a friend, tag us as you're listening. Let me know who you want to see next, what topics you want me to cover next. And maybe they'll come to you before the hiatus, or maybe you'll see them in 2025. I hope you all enjoy this episode. I'll see you next week. Meet Medha. So Medha, what's something that people wouldn't know about you just from following you?
Oh my gosh. I have always been obsessed with aerial arts. So I recently started, actually no, because I've talked about it now. I grew up ice skating. I don't think many people know that. I was a competitive ice skater for like 16 years, and I skated in college for 1 year, but then I quit because it's a lot of work. Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, I didn't know about the aerial arts thing. I've always wanted to do it. I've never done that.
It's really fun, but very challenging for your upper body too.
Yeah,
So
I have no upper body strength. I think
me either, me either.
But ice skating is cool. That's one of my favorite sports to watch during the Winter Olympics.
hmm
But that's cool. What do you think? Because I always say dance taught me a lot of life skills, like it's especially discipline and like personal
hmm
presence. Like what would you say is the greatest lesson that you've gotten from
Ooh.
figure skating?
I think in ice skating, like definitely like how you present yourself is everything because even if you're like skating and you're like slightly in pain if you fell, you still have to complete your program and you still have to smile through it because you're performing, but you're also like you're an entertainer and an athlete at the same time. And obviously discipline because I mean I would skate like 4 hours a day. Like there are times I'd wake up at 5 a.m., drive to the rink an hour away, start skating from like 7 a.m. to like 11, then do ballet, then do Pilates, then drive home. And just like never giving up because like you can practice as much as you can, but then when you go in the competition, you only have like 4 minutes maximum to like do your whole program. It forces you to step up to the plate fully. Like you can't like leave anything behind or, like, or say like, oh, I'll do that next time. It's like, no, in this moment, I have to perform very well. I have to do the best I possibly can. It's more of a mental game than a physical game, but I didn't learn that until I was much older because you can practice all your jumps and spins and do it beautifully in practice. But if you let the pressure really get to you during competition time, it can really like break you and you start making mistakes that you usually never make. But I'm just so happy I did ice skating because it made me so disciplined to the point where now even when I'm feeling lazy, I still that discipline just kicks in. So it's really
Yeah,
nice.
that's good. I was talking about this with my therapist yesterday. It's
hmm
being an entrepreneur. The hardest part is that there's nobody telling you what to do. And the summer tends to be a slower season for me. So I have been
hmm
a little bit more like all over the place. And now September, usually it starts to pick up. And I'm glad it's starting to pick up because it's forcing me to be more disciplined and scheduled.
Right.
Because I need that and I crave that. But then there's that part of me that's just like, oh, I don't have anything to do today. Like I can just, and that's not true. There's always more I could be doing. But then
Right.
I'm tired. I want to lay on the couch and watch TV. I wish my dance discipline kicked in a little more. I need to retrain that muscle. But it's so true what you say about like mindset and performance anxiety. Like I think, and like it is applicable later on in life too. Like you could do everything right. You could have it, know it like the back of your hand, do it backwards and forwards and blindfolded. But like if you let like other circumstances get to you, it could really shake you up and like make mistakes, and people can see when you're nervous or when you're stressed, or and like learning to hide that and control that and use that as your, I guess, motivation is really important. Yeah, I never would have thought that you did figure skating. But okay, I didn't realize, like, what was it like doing that like in high school? Because like I know swimmers, like they go to like the 4 a.m 5 a.m practices and then they go to school. But were you
Right.
doing rink time, like ice time, before school or only on the weekends?
So what happened was I learned how to skate at Detroit Figure Skating Club and like if anyone's like listening to this and they're an ice skater, Detroit Skating Club is like the mecca of all skating clubs because a lot of Olympians train there. A lot of people from all over the world like literally come to Michigan to train at that rink. And so I started learning there when I was 4, and then when I was 6, we moved to a different town, like an hour away, and I started skating at this smaller club. So I would skate like in the evenings, like Monday through Friday. But then I started like moving very high up in the levels very quickly. And so by the time I was 11, my mom's best friend, her husband, he represented Czechoslovakia in the Olympics, and so he started training me Monday through Friday during the evening, and then Saturday, Sunday in the evenings as well. I would skate with him, and then by the time I was 13, I started. My mom would drive me to Detroit Figure Skating Club, and I would skate there for several hours, have like different coaches. So during my summer holidays, I would be up at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday, skate there, then ballet or dry training, and then I'd do Pilates, and then we would drive back. But during the school year, it would always be like 1 to 2 hours after classes. But for me, I really love ice skating because like you feel so free when you're on the ice. Like you move so fast and you can do so many cool things. And it's really nice. And I feel like this is not scientifically correct, but I feel like the cold freezes like your brain cells. So you're not so it like you're so focused on the ice because you're trying like there's other skaters around, so you don't want to run into them. You only have like 1 to 2 hours to practice, or otherwise you have to pay more. And it's ice skating is a sport where you can't take it home with you. It's not like softball where you can like start practicing in your backyard. All your training happens at the rink, so you like want to maximize it. So I feel like it forced me to like forget everything at the door of the rink and just like focus 100% on ice skating. And then afterwards, I would start worrying about like other things that would happen. But I feel like it was like a great like break from studying, but also a fun thing to do. And I loved competing. Like I would like travel. Like, we went to Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana to like compete. So for me, it was really fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, it's two things that you said. You said one earlier, like, you know, you had to leave it all on the ice. Like that was your one chance every time. Like one of the best lessons my dance teacher ever told me. I remember I was like 16 years old and she said, don't be a space filler. Like take up space, finish your movement. And I think that's something that's so applicable to life. If you're gonna do it, go all in. Like don't half-ass
Right.
it because what's the point? What's the point of half-assing it? Then people, that's all that people expect of you. They don't expect you to go above and beyond. And yes, it puts a lot of pressure on you if you always go above and beyond, but it's a standard that you set for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you only get that one chance. And if you're phoning it in, you might miss the opportunity. But also, don't go through life just like expecting that things are just magically gonna work out if you don't put in the effort. Like you have to put in the effort. You have to
Right.
take up space, demand your worth, demand to be seen, know your value, like ask for what you need, ask questions, ask for help. And it's a way of advocating for yourself. And then what you said now of, you leave your ego at the door, you leave your ego outside the rink and you just like let it all out there. Like that was another thing that she always said on our studio. It literally said, leave your ego at the door. And
Yeah.
it's like, this is your chance to show people who you are, your emotions, what you're feeling. You feel free. You feel like you can let go. And it doesn't matter who you are when you're performing.
Right.
What you're showing them, that's all you have. So I
Right.
think those are lessons that competitive sports or competitive
Mm-hmm.
activities like that are really important. And to your point, like figure skating, you're both an artist and an athlete. And I think dance is very similar to that.
Same. Yes.
There's a lot of training, there's a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it. And then it's a 3-minute, 4-minute performance.
Right.
It was so effortless and beautiful, but it took so much more to get there.
Yes. This is so random, but I remember, you know, when Beyonce performed in Coachella, and like there was this tweet that was going viral, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, Beyonce and her entire team, they trained 8 months for 2 hours." And I'm like, obviously, you would train 8 months for 2 hours because I don't know, like if you in your competitive dance career, like what your season was like, but our season would start in like August and end in May. But
Yeah.
you would start training in June, but you'd always keep like adding new elements to your program, trying new things, and so you would almost train like 8 to 10 months for a 4 minute program.
Yeah.
And but for me, that's normal, and I'm so happy. I think that's normal now because something that I've seen when people try to start either a startup or they even just like have a side hustle, they don't want to put too much effort in because they're like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. But if you don't put in all your effort, like if you don't give your 110% shot in the very beginning, you can't ever grow to a point where you can be relaxed about your business. I feel like so many people they want to like shortcut it. Like there's no shortcut to hard work.
Yeah.
There's none. I've tried to find one. There's none.
No,
So
I
you have to
agree.
put the work in.
I agree. I remember that they said that too about J-Lo and Shakira because she did like the whole halftime documentary talking
Hmm.
about the training that it goes into it. But I mean, to some extent, I understand in those scenarios because the Super Bowl is a one-time performance and it's like 15 minutes or whatever. For us, yes, it's only 4 minutes, but you're doing it multiple times. You're competing at multiple times. You're
Right,
traveling to
right,
compete. Like I would go to New York, I would go to Orlando. Some people would go to Vegas. Like you're going around the country competing. And I think, yeah, it seems ridiculous. Our season it would be during the school year, like August to May to June, but nationals was in July. So school would end, and then instead of just being weeknights and Saturday and Sunday, you were going all day long. And then competition was in July, and then in August was intensive. So 2 weeks of intensive dance classes to make the team again. Like you still had to try out. There was no guaranteed spot, and then it would start
right.
all over like come September. So yeah, it's like, yeah, maybe only 4 minutes, but in order to perfect something, like you have to practice it. Practice makes perfect. And like
Right.
to your point about like startups and stuff, like I always see like you may think it's redundant, but you know, people haven't seen it before. You have to keep
Mhm.
sharing the same message. Like if you want to make sales, you have to keep talking about it. You have to present it in new ways. You have to, you know, recraft the hook or whatever. And it's like sometimes I'm like, I'm tired of talking the same thing over and over again. But then one, maybe the messaging that I'm working doesn't align with me and that's why I'm tired about it and that's something to
Mhm.
think about. Or maybe I'm not really as passionate about this offering as I thought I was if I don't
Mhm.
want to talk about it anymore. But also, yeah, like maybe people haven't seen it before and they need to hear it or I need to educate them on why
Mhm.
it's important. And, it's the same thing like practice makes perfect. Like, yeah, you might be tired of running the same routine again and again and again and again, but the only way you get it down and it becomes a muscle memory and you truly know that you know it is recall and continuing to
Right.
help people. And that's again another lesson that you get from being an athlete or an artist or a dancer or a skater or whatever it is that you do. Like your childhood experiences really do make an impact in who you are and in your career.
Oh, definitely. And even I remember one time, like I was talking to someone who's like a photographer, and they were like, "Why would I need a lawyer?" And I'm like, like you would need, like, if you're taking photos for someone for an influencer on Instagram, you need obviously a contract with them. And if your photos end up on a billboard, you want to be getting paid more. I think she was also slightly confused on like what opportunities are available to her and how she should be charging, but she
Yeah.
didn't realize how important it is to have a lawyer. So I was like, no, 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 like you actually need a lawyer in these situations. And because if you're new to like having your photographs on billboards, maybe you can have an attorney who has done that before for different clients and they know how to negotiate and things like that. And so it's like trying to be in their shoes and see like what they don't know and filling in those gaps. But it only happens if you spend time with them and you like constantly reach out to them and just be in the space that they're naturally in.
Yeah, and like you have to learn the landscape of where you're in. Like I can commiserate with figure skating because there is going to be a lot of similarities to dance. Or for example, like I follow an influencer, Peyton Sarton, and she dates a professional baseball player. He
Hmm.
travels a lot. She's comfortable with that. People are like, how are you okay with him being gone all the time? She's like, my dad was a military fighter pilot. Like I was used to that. Like there is
Right,
going to be experiences in our lives that do allow us to understand. But if you're not taking the time to inform yourself and train yourself and understand people's pain points, you're not going to be translating to your target audience, to your clientele. But that's why you have to continuously talk about it and ask questions and be willing to learn and be teachable. And
right,
that's what the beauty of something like growing up in figure skating and dance or something helps is
right,
like learning to be teachable, like be coachable. Just
right,
because you're winning, you know, gold medals or platinums or whatever it is every single weekend doesn't mean that maybe you're the best at your studio and but maybe you're not and maybe there
hmm,
is more for you to learn. There's always more to grow. Like I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in life is feeling that we are ever complete or we are ever at our peak. Like, actually, I don't want to peak. I'm so glad I didn't peak in high school or in
right,
college or wherever. Like, that's not a good thing because once you peak, the only way to go is down or you
right,
plateau, but like then you're also still not growing. I never want to get to a point where it's like there's no more to go, no more to
hmm,
learn, no more to grow. I want to be the best at what I do and I want to be known for it, but I want people I want to learn. I want to grow. And this is something I talk about all the time is,
Hmm.
especially in relationships, like we're whole, but we're not complete. Like we don't need someone to complete us because we're a whole damn person. We're going to continuously evolve and grow. And if your partner's not evolving and growing with you and you're not evolving and growing together, then that's a sign that like maybe that's not the right relationship for you.
Right.
But no one should ever complete. You should never seek to be like the end all be all, because then where do you go from here?
Right. No, for me, I love learning something new every single day, and I'm so happy like where I'm currently working at, like I learn something new every single day, but also in ice skating, like every coach teaches something very differently. Like I had coaches from Poland, Czechoslovakia, like Russia, US, Canada, and it was like so amazing to see like what they learned and what they were used to and what they would teach me. And I'm just so happy like in ice skating, like and also in dance, like it forces you to be humble because once you fall and hit the ice, it hurts. It really hurts. So you don't want to have that experience ever again. So you're constantly like trying to figure out how to do something more consistently. And look what you were saying with your dance competitions, like you could have gotten a gold in nationals, but then 2 weeks later, like a couple weeks, you were again in intensive, having to try out again. So for like those two sports keep you on your toes, which is a good thing because it always forces you to always you're always a permanent learner, you know, you're never like the master. And I never want to be like
Yeah.
master what I'm doing because then that means I'm in the wrong room and I need to find a different room to be in.
100%. I talk about this literally all the time. It's like, I don't want to be the smartest in the room, and I don't want everyone in the room to think like me because
Hmm.
that's boring. If we're just all
Yes.
talking about the same thing over and over again, nobody's learning, nobody's growing. And there's ways to do it respectfully for sure. But I want, like, if we differ in opinion, explain to me why you feel that way. And maybe you'll change my mind, maybe you won't, but at least I can understand. And if it's coming from a place of you genuinely believe that because you have a good reason and you've made your uneducated decision in believing that, then cool. But if you're just believing something blindly and you're continuing to be like, no, this is the only way, then you're not teachable. And that's not someone that I want to be around. And I want to be around.
Right.
I'm continuously learning and evolving and growing. And that's one thing I love about you on LinkedIn is that every single day you post something and I'm like, that's another layer to her. Like I didn't know that she did that. I didn't know that she experienced it. And it's just you're constantly there's always more to share. And I'm like, there's so many things I could talk about. I don't have enough time in the day to
Right.
craft a post about everything that comes into my head. Like yesterday I was working and then somehow I got the Diddy thing, like the whole Diddy situation
Right.
going on. I got on that side of TikTok and then the movie Blink Twice started coming up. People were like, it's so similar. Like the speech that Diddy made apologizing a couple months ago was like eerily similar to the speech that Channing Tatum's character makes in Blink Twice. So then I
Hmm.
started looking up Blink Twice because I hadn't heard about the movie. And I ended up on a
Right.
rabbit hole. I love Channing Tatum. I've always liked him. So I was like, how did he get his start? I forgot like his origin story. Also, I knew Magic Mike was like his life story, but I didn't know like his first role. And one of his first roles was She's the Man. She's the Man
Hmm.
is based on Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. I ended up on a whole Shakespeare, like, and I'm like,
I love
I
this.
haven't done any work today. Like, I'm completely on another rabbit hole, but I learned something new. And I learned a lot of new things actually yesterday. And I like that. And it's like, I can't make a post about every rabbit hole that I go down or every new piece
Hmm.
of information because then I would never actually get any work done. But we need to continuously be evolving and like have like things to talk about. That always something that I said growing up. Like one of my friends, we're no longer friends in law school. We met in college, and I remember when we were both going to law school, she said, she's like, I want to meet my husband. And like, if by 25, I haven't met my husband, like, I need to meet him in law school because I'm going to graduate and I'm never going to meet him. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever.
You
I
don't
mean,
want to with the be. I'm sorry. You don't want to be with the man in law school, girl. Like,
no, oh, okay, yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But like, I was like, I mean, if I meet my husband in law school, cool, but also like, that's not the end all be all. Like, we're 25, like, our lives haven't started yet. And I digress. But one of the things that always I struggled with in that particular friendship, and was one of the many reasons it ended up falling apart, is because all that we would talk about was like boys and shopping and like other people. And she was so concerned with other people. And it's like, if I never felt good about myself. I never felt like I could learn, or we could talk about life experiences or world experiences, like things that were happening. Like now, like one of my best friends, like we went to Orlando in July for a pageant. She's a pageant girl. We were judging a pageant together. And while we were there, certain things like political things were happening. And like, so we like talked about what was going on in the world, and we talked about like different things. And I'm like, not that I knew that I knew she had like was more like me and we were willing to talk about it, but I was so pleasantly surprised. And like, it's so refreshing having female friends who like do care about beauty and health and wellness and how you look and like those things. Like those are important. I'm not saying they're not, but like that you could also have like these very intellectual conversations. And she's an engineer. She's very well educated. She, and it's like being surrounded by people that are well educated, but also well-rounded individuals. And like, those are two very different things is so important. And I think that's the beauty of like grad school and law school, is that it teaches you how to be around a lot of different people that you don't necessarily agree with and that have a lot of different experiences from you. And how that shapes your worldview. And like, I don't know, that was just an interesting thing. But yeah, dating in law school is a whole other beast.
Yeah. No, because I remember, like, for me, I realized that the people that I get along with the best are people who also like to learn new things every day. Because there's people who I've met who have lots of degrees, but they don't like to learn. Like they think they've reached the limit of all the things they can learn about in the world, which is like just completely false. This world is so big, and you can learn something new every single day. Especially if you live in like a city like New York or Miami, like you will run across different people every day, so you can always learn something from them. But just being around people who are curious and continuously ask questions and like to have like a do fun things outside of like their normal routines. Like I like we get along so well together. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But then there's people who are like, I'm in law school. I'm the smartest person. I'm like, oh, what's up?
That's one of my biggest things is always to law students. And I think you and I have even had this conversation once, is like, I mean, yes, try to be the top of your class or like have really good grades. But a lot of times the people who are number one in the class, like the top three, they're not always the most social, fun person to be around.
Right.
And I remember when I found out who the top like three of our class was, I was like pleasantly surprised that 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 were like two girls that I was like, oh, like they're actually like, they're not like my closest friends. One of them I was like more close to because she was in my section, but I was like, oh, like they're actually like social and fun people. Like they're not out at the bars with us every night. They're not the party people, but like they're fun, like they're nice. And then like some of them that I was like, oh, like this makes a lot of sense, like why they're very like focused on school. But it's like, who would you rather at 2 a.m. be stuck working on a brief with? Like the person who's a robot and just like, no, I can't go get pizza, like I need to finish this, or like, yeah, let's go get a beer, like take a breather, like this isn't going anywhere. You can always try to be up there, like the top echelon of your space. Like that's like, yeah, you want to be known, you want to have the titles, the prestige, the recognition, you want people to seek you out for advice. That's great, but be willing to also like learn how to communicate and like network with people and interest in people. Like there's like a thread today that I saw. It's like, what is your best networking tips? And I was like, if you have genuine interest in someone, they're more likely to have genuine interest in you. And that's how you foster good networking and good connections. And it's really important to have a network, but if you can't tap into it when you need it, what good is that network doing? And that's something that like men and women are very different in networking. Men are a lot more willing to be like, oh, I need something, let me pick up the phone and call this person. Whereas women are like, oh yeah, I know someone, but they're like, but then they don't actually ask for it. Like Frank, our mutual friend, I needed a contract template for a client, and I was like, hey, do you have an agreement? He's like, I have $1 billion. What do you need? I'm like, a year ago, I would have been too afraid to ask certain mentors because they're not the right people. They're not the right fit. They're not the competition. They're like, oh, like if I'll just take that case. Like if you can't handle it or you don't have the template, you shouldn't be doing that case. Or who are you to be handling that kind of work? Whatever. Like those are not your people. But fostering a community of people that you can genuinely go to and are willing to help is important, and it's something that you're really good at. And I think is something that is a fundamental part of grad school, but it's something that can be taught and it has to be fostered. And I don't know, I think it's just something that we need to be better about teaching people in law school. Like the goal isn't just to get the grades or get the job. It's
Right.
the cohort, the network, the community that you build while you're
Right. No, that's so true because I've seen people like just burn bridges with others by being super competitive about certain opportunities. But the thing is, you're not like there are multiple opportunities that will be good for you, and trying to be like overtly competitive to the point where you're burning a bridge before you graduated when that person like
You
you
never know who
both
they're gonna end up, where they're gonna end
right,
up, who they are, who they're gonna
right.
be.
Exactly. And then there's like no point in being like if you're competitive with yourself, that's great, but being competitive with another person, to me it's just it's like a waste of energy. Like just go focus on yourself, go try to improve, like get a mentor, like ask for feedback, always go out of your way and like ask people how you can improve and then actually improve, like take their feedback. But it's I'm so happy like I took 2 years off before starting law school and I'm so happy I did because I actually got like a real world experience. I had my first full-time job and I did not like it, but it made me realize that there are certain skills that I learned in that job that have really helped me today, like even in law school or even now in my current internship. So I'm glad I had that experience and I kind of figure out like what I liked and what I didn't like and knew going forward like okay, when I interview at places, like just because it's the biggest name in the specific industry, it does not mean it's going to be a good fit for me. Like I actually need to go. My job that I hated, it taught me that before I apply somewhere, to actually go to events where those employees of that company will be at and just speak to, they have like a normal conversation, like just like ask like, what are they drinking? What are you eating? Like asking about like their outfits. Cause I love like people have cool outfits. I always ask them like, where'd you get it from? Cause I love fashion. And if I can't have like those simple conversations with you, I don't want to work with you. Like I don't like if you're being really weird, having like weird energy or being rude to me in like a very chill environment, I don't want to work with you. And then I'm probably not going to apply to that company because now I'm going to start questioning what's the culture in that company. But then when you start meeting people and you're like, oh, you're really cool, very easy to talk to, and they also are allow you to make mistakes because you can only grow when you make mistakes, and obviously you just want to make the mistake once and then learn
Yeah.
from it. I'm like, okay, they're really cool people. I know I'll learn a lot from them. Like, where did they work? Because I want to work with them. And then I'll apply, start telling them like, hey, like if you guys have an opening for a legal internship, I'd love to work with you. And so people have like asked their head of general counsel like if they need an intern and things like that. So it's great that way, like because the last thing you want to do is like apply for a job, do all these interviews, and start working there and realizing the culture fit is so bad or like people
100%.
or if people hate working there and it's like I'm not going to be any different from them. Like, I think people overestimate. They always think like, oh, I can change the environment I'm in. But if that
You're the
environment
man.
has, but if that type of environment has existed for several years and it's being maintained and upheld by people who've been there for like 10, 20 years, you coming in, like, you can come with your ideas, but it's not going to start changing until several years in, or like you're gonna do something that's so make a change that's so massive, they'll feel so uncomfortable with you being there, and then they'll find like one mistake you do and like fire you because they're like, oh, she's creating the problems when you're actually trying to bring solutions. But they're so stuck in their old ways, they see you as like the enemy.
So many like good things that you talked about. Okay, when you're 17, 18 years old, like you don't know what you want, and it's okay not to know. Like it's actually better to know what you don't want to do, so having bad jobs or bad bosses is a good thing. It sucks in the moment, but hey, at the end of the day,
Right.
you're collecting a paycheck and you're learning transferable skills and what you don't want. And those are the three things that is more important than anything. And don't fall into the golden handcuffs. Like try to get yourself out of that situation, but you know take the lessons, take the opportunities that you can take from that. Like there is
Mhm.
valuable information there. But yeah, when you're looking for like an opportunity, that's why career fairs or happy hours and like events are important. I love that you look to see like who do you know that works there, what's the company culture, what's the fit, like how do they dress, does that align with my values and goals in a company? Because these you spend like a third or a fourth of your life at work, so these people become an integral part of who you are. They're your dating pool, they're your family and friends, they're your people. Like at the end of the day, that is who you're surrounded by, and you're going to start picking up a lot of the information that's out there subconsciously, the
Mhm.
mentality, the culture. So, yeah, you can't go in and change it. It's really hard to do that unless you create your own thing or you get to the position of power, but then you've had to have been there for enough time to have gotten there. It's going to change you too. So, looking for companies where you align with the values and the goals and the fit, whether it's political leaning or it's, you know, cultural, like literally like religious or, nationality, ethnicity, etc. Like, where do you feel that you do not have to compromise who you are or change who you are to fit in? And where are you going to be embraced and valued? Don't be the token girl, you know? Like, someone has to do it. Someone has to be the first, but it doesn't have to be you if you feel that you will have to compromise who you are to be in that room. And that's something that I've really seen the importance of in the last few years, seeing my friends go to companies and law firms and talk about the company culture and like, I have to dress a certain way or I can't dye my hair a certain color because the other people don't do that. And that to me is like something that like I'm not okay with. But hey, if you're willing to do that, make those changes and mindset, then that's cool. That's on you. Like, you get to decide what is enough for you and what you're willing to change or not. And nobody can tell you that there's no right or wrong way, but be aware of the fact that those are choices that you can and should make. And I think those are all things that nobody talks about enough in law school or grad school. It's like, there is a prescribed path. You should do it a certain way. That's the not the easy way, but it's like it's the comfortable, the path of least resistance. It's the one that's the most prestigious, but
or most traveled, everyone goes down that pipeline.
But that's not the only way. And I love that more and more people are starting to talk about these alternative paths and valuing them. There's always going to be people in those paths that don't value the other things. But are those your people? And like, some of them are my best friends and I love them.
Right.
But that's just where we have a fundamental difference. And it's like, okay, at a certain point, we have to stop talking about these things because it's just, we're not going to agree. And I love them. I don't love them any less and they don't love me any less, but it's like, all right, that's just where we're at. And that's okay.
No, that's so true because I feel like when I graduated from high school, my dad's best friend, he told me like the best thing you can do is figure out what you don't like. Because once you realize what you don't like, you just do a 180 and you're doing something that you do like. And so he's like, go figure out what you don't like these first couple years, and then you'll start realizing like what you're naturally gifted at, like what comes easiest to you, and then what you find to be interesting, and then you can pursue that. And I'm so happy you told me that because I've worked like a lot of different internships, jobs, I have my own catering business. So I've done a lot of things that were like fun, but also things I'm like, in the future I really don't want to spend my time and energy doing that. But I'm so glad I had all those different experiences because now in my current job, like obviously as a lawyer you have different clients from different backgrounds. I can relate to them because I've done some of the things that they've done. Maybe even if it was just for like 3 months. I think one of my jobs is I would sell clothes like on the Facebook Marketplace at my university and just like to make extra money that way. And one time I was on my way like to sell a shirt or a bag or something to another girl, and I saw a girl like just dumping out Burberry, and I was like, what the hell? Like, who dumps out Burberry like by the trash can? So I was like, hey, what's up? Like, what's up with this? So turns out she worked with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend always gifted her Burberry. And I was like, hey, I'm a reseller.
Better ways to get rid of it.
And I was like, hey, I'm a reseller. I'm trying to like, because like tuition would just increase to the point where it's like, even though I planned out for it, it was just some of the expenses were crazy, and then our rent was just increasing too. And she was like, yeah, take it. And so I started selling like, don't tell Burberry, but I started selling the Burberry, to like make more money that way. And then sometimes I talk to people and they were like, yeah, one of my side hustles was like selling these clothes, or like wealthy people would just dump all their clothes in like certain areas and they would sift through it, figure out which one are like the better quality pieces and sell it online. I'm like, yo, I kind of did that too. So like, there's certain like,
there's no shame in having.
there's no shame. No, but it's good because it like forces you to be like on your toes and like turns you into like a hustler, which is always good because like
outside of the box, thinking outside of the box and having all those life experiences will help you, like you said, like with your clients and bringing new ideas to the table and having a different perspective. And that's why diversity is so important. It's not just color or creed or whatever, but it's diversity of thought. And we're kind of starting to lose that again. And it makes me sad.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you had a catering business, and I want to go back to that. When did you have time to do this as a kid if you were doing competitive figure skating? Because like that's immediately where
I know.
How did you do that?
So my first clients were the skaters who I skated with. And then their parents were like, oh, like, look, they had siblings, obviously. So then their siblings and their sports teams wanted catering, and then their parents, like their offices, would order catering as well. So for me, like in the beginning, I did meal prep for athletes.
How
So
old were
whatever I was,
you?
I was
And what were
13.
you preparing?
So I started my hitting business when I was 13. So basically what happened was I was a competitive ice skater, and then I did like a hairline tear on both my Achilles tendons. And so I had to like take time off, obviously, but I love sweets. So I was trying to find a way how I can make sweets healthier so I can eat it every day. But then when I would come back to training after I fully healed, like I'd be fine. And so I started experimenting in the kitchen a lot of times. And then when I finally got back into training, I like brought my own food. It was like rice, mango chicken, and cilantro lime rice. And I was just eating it at the rink. And a girl came up to me and she was like, hey, where did you get that from? And I was like, oh, I made it myself. And she's like, oh, I wish I had that. And I'm like, well, if you give me $10, I'll bring you the same meal tomorrow. And she did. So that's how I kind of started on accident, actually. I never set out to be like a chef or my own catering business. So that's like whatever I was eating, I would sell it. So that it made it easier for me because I would like just
You'd
make
make
my portion
more
of the
of
food.
it. It's
Yeah,
easier to make in
exactly.
bulk.
Exactly. So whatever I was eating, everyone else was eating it too. And then people like love sweets, obviously. So I made a lot of cookies. And eventually, when I was in college, actually, my number one bestseller was espresso chocolate chip cookie dough. Like everyone, regardless of how health conscious they were, loved it. And the best thing is you can have it frozen, or I would sell it frozen actually. So they would get like frozen cookie dough, and some of them would just eat it like that. It was completely safe. Or if you had the patience, you could bake it in the oven for like 8 minutes. But it became so popular because I remember one time like I would deliver all my um catering stuff just because I wanted them to like know who I was. Like it wasn't like some delivery service, so I just have a better relationship with my clients. Like I would give it to one, like say suppose in college, like there was for my client was living in a house for like 5 people. They would order it from me. They would start eating it because if they got home and put it in the freezer, it would be gone before they could have it. So
Yeah.
that they would be eating it, but then their roommates would know that they would have ordered cookie dough from me, and then they'd be upset, like, "Hey, I want cookie dough too. Why didn't you bring some for me?" And all of a sudden, all their roommates would order from me at the exact same time.
Word of
So
mouth is
yeah, word of mouth spreads so fast. People get FOMO. Like if they see you eating something that's like very interesting or smells good, everybody wants that because everyone does not have like most people don't have a really good diet in college, and some people really do not know how to cook. So if they see you eating something slightly healthy and like interesting, they want it, and they'll pay you a lot of money because it's like if you're cheaper than like Chipotle or the other fast food options available to them, they'll always choose you over
yeah.
them. Yeah.
But, okay, so how did you figure out how to price yourself? And like, especially in high school you have your parents' kitchen, but in college, like you move,
Hmm.
like are you like how did you have the resources to make
Right.
all of this food? Like obviously like yeah, you're grocery shopping for yourself, but where were you cooking this and how did you fund the business?
My first year of college, I didn't have access to a kitchen, so I wasn't like really cooking then. But I was still posting on Instagram, and like everyone knew that I had a cookbook and a food blog, so people would keep talking about that. And then my sophomore year, I got an apartment with my sister, and we had a kitchen. And I would just like, what happened was people would see me eating my snacks in the library, and they're like, "Where did you get that from?" And I'm like, "Oh, I made it." And they're like, "Oh, we want it." So then people started like, they would just see what I'm eating and pick up on it. And then Costco, I would always get like the 10 kilo of flour and 10 kilo of sugar was like $10 each, and 10 kilos is a lot, or I think it was 10 pounds, but it was like a huge bag. It'd come up to my hips, so I'd always buy that like once every couple months. And I realized like I started making more money once I made the espresso chocolate chip cookie dough like the prime product because I realized a lot of people they don't want to admit that their meal planning is not that greatest or that they don't know how to cook. So, but if you say like, oh hey, like I'm selling this cookie dough, everyone will eat it, especially late at
And
night at
they're
the
going to try
library or
your
our
other
party.
products, yeah.
Right, because what would happen is they would have it, they would really like it, and then they would go on my Instagram and see that I'd post like pictures of different desserts and like different healthier options, like or, like lunch and dinner options. Like I'd always make salmon with broccoli and spinach and just make it like really fun with different flavors. And they were like, "Oh, hey, I actually want that too." I'm like, "Okay, great. Like this is the price for it." And I would sell it to them that way. but I didn't know how to price myself. So what I did is I would go on the websites of all the fancy restaurants that I really liked, and then I would see like the medium tiered restaurants, and then I would see the restaurants that all of my clients would usually go to, like to go out to eat with their friends or go out to eat with their parents. And I would see their prices, and I'd always price it like a couple dollars below. That's how I started.
I mean, no,
And then
that is a
that's
good
how I
start.
did it. Yeah.
That's so crazy. So,
Yeah.
how long did you do it for, and what was
Oh
kind
my
of like
gosh.
the peak or like the moment where you're like, oh, like this is like a real business?
I think once I realized my cookie dough was like my star product, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, because I could make I should have invested in a KitchenAid mixer, but I just didn't have space in my kitchen and like moving it around to like sometimes I'd work out a licensed kitchen as well, but like lugging my stuff cooking supplies around was just like too much for me. If and so I had like a handheld electric mixer and I could make 15 dozen cookies in like from start to finish to like make it into little balls and put in the freezer within an hour.
That's
So
insane.
I know it's
The hand
literally
mixture?
yes.
What?
I was girl, I was going. Nothing was
It's a
stopping me.
workout in and of itself.
It is. It's such a workout. And like my right arm was much stronger than my left arm
Oh
because
yeah.
of that. How I'd price my cookie dough, it'd be $1 per little ball, or you can do a dozen for $11. And so even people were like, "Oh, I'm just gonna try it out." They're like, "Oh, like I'll just spend $11 for the whole dozen." So with that, I would make around like within an hour, I could make about $150. And at the time, like I was working a job like as a research assistant and making 15 an hour. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Because there were times where like I would only technically work 2 hours a week, but I was making $300. But that's because my grocery bill, like I kept my grocery bill under $40 a week personally for my use. My other expenses were all covered by my catering business. And then if I needed more money in my catering business, but I didn't want to actually use my personal funds, I'm pretty sure your university did this too. Like a lot of the PhD students, they needed to pay people to be subjects in their studies. So I'd always do like the economic surveys where they try to see like what's your thought pattern on like purchasing stuff. So I would just go into the computer lab, do this survey for like an hour, like multiple surveys, and then you get paid depending on what you answered. So I'd always make anywhere from $30 to $50 in an hour. So then I'd use that money and then go to Costco.
I did. So my school, the big thing was donating plasma. You would get
Yes,
like $100 for donating
yes,
plasma, which is
yes.
so stupid. My mom hated that I did it. She's like, you'd always like be like, I'm iron deficient.
Me too. That's why I can't do it. But you did it?
Yeah, they still let me.
Girl, what?
Um, so I would be like all bruised, and my mom was like, "What are you doing?" But I was like, "Hey, this is like shopping money. Like,
Right,
went out,
right.
buying what I wanted." Um, and looking back, the shit that college students do for money is so stupid. But the surveys are a thing, and like studies, like
Yeah.
I love that you've always been someone who is willing to like look a little crazy and like do things out of the box and have multiple things too. Like some people are like, I can't do this, I have to do this. It's like, no, like you can do whatever you want and you can do all of it. You just it's time management and prioritization, which I
Right,
want to get to. And
right.
those are skills that have obviously helped you later. But
Yes.
yeah, like that's so crazy that you were doing surveys to be able to go to Costco.
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't want to use my own money. I was like, no, my own money needs to be
No,
tucked
as you should.
away.
Business expenses and personal, that's different.
It's
And
different.
it's
Yeah.
good that at 20 years old, you were starting to know like how to run a business. And like,
Right.
did you have like a full on bank account set up? Did you have all of it like legally organized? Or were you like, how
Yes.
did you know to do those things?
I knew how to do those things just because um I actually went like I started learning more about personal financing and like how if you had an LLC you can get like it's like a tax write-off basically, and I was like, oh, I want a tax write-off. So I started learning more about LLCs and then created my LLC and put it under so like I made the cooks, that was my catering business name. And so I did things like all legally, and like it was to the point where I remember one time like my mom's accountant, she called me and she was like, when I was working, so in between college and law school, I was working a job that I didn't like. She called me and she's like, you know, you don't need to work this job. You can just do your catering business full time. But I still didn't think that my catering business could be full time. I just thought I could decide. Like, for me, it was I was having so much fun. I couldn't believe like it could be my full
It was
time
work.
gig.
I
Yeah,
think you
it
making
wasn't
a full
work. It
time
was
living
work.
while
Yeah.
doing it, and you were still in school and you were working all these other jobs, and like
Right, right.
that's insane.
It was insane. And she's like, you know, you don't have to work this job. And I'm like, no, because like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, I went to university for 4 years, I got my degree, and now I'm working a job that's related to my degree. Like, of course I have to do my 9 to 5. I can't do catering full time, even though cause I loved it so much. It was like, for me, like, and also for my catering business, when I would host like cater for events, it was literally a party. So I was getting paid
To go
to
to
feed.
parties.
Yeah, yeah, basically. And I'd always get free food, free drinks. Like I've never paid for alcohol until COVID started. And I was like, oh, this is so expensive. What is this? And then finally, my mom's accountant was like, Medha, your catering business, if you take it full time, will earn 9 times more than your salary. And I was like, no, you're kidding.
What? That is nuts.
I'm like, no, you're lying. And then I ran the numbers. I was like, oh, she's right. So I called my mom. I was like, run these numbers. Tell me what you get. And she also got the same number. And I was like, oh, like for me, I was like, that's crazy. Like, how can cookie dough out earn a job that I worked 4 years basically to get? And so that's when I realized like you can have all the degrees in the world, but there's sometimes like small mundane things like everyone's gonna eat, everyone needs
They're necessities.
clothes.
There is
Yeah, like
certain businesses that are always going to do better. I'm actually reading a book
exactly.
right now called Excessively Obsessed, and it's a great business book actually by Tash Oakley, the founder of Monday Swimwear, or the co-founder.
Mm,
And she talks about how like the profit margins will depend on the type of business that you're in. Product versus service. Is your business like swimwear based on like seasonal, or is it year round? Like there's certain businesses that are like restaurants are going to have a very low profit margin because they're very expensive
yes,
to maintain, but they're necessities. They're year round. There's going to be
right.
certain times where you're making more because like holidays or like Valentine's or whatever, but there people need to eat. Or are you running a business that is more luxury, like things like swimwear aren't all the time? Like not everyone's investing in that, you know? That also helps you with your marketing and like all these different things that like you learned so early on. But that's just crazy to think like that you were making a business that is that successful and you didn't even know it and you
I didn't
didn't.
even know. No, because I was just so busy. Like in college, I was just like going to classes, doing my homework. In college, I wanted to be a diplomat, but unfortunately, back then, all the internships are either unpaid or if you're doing a paid position, it's not really in diplomacy. It's in something slightly parallel to it. And so I'd have an unpaid internship, and I'd be like, bro, like I need money coming in because this is ridiculous. So then I would just go to like anytime I wanted to earn more, I would just like make more cookie dough or like
What was
make
your
more meals.
like walk me through like a typical day in your life, like as a senior in college? Like what did
Okay.
you
Wait, senior year was crazy just
I
because
need
I
to
graduated in COVID.
at all.
Okay, I just wanna preface this by saying I'm a Bronx-born Scorpio. I think I'm a little crazy. Like I just wanna lay it out
You're
there.
all
Like I'm
what?
not a, I'm a
What did you
Bronx.
say?
I always Bronx-born Scorpio.
A Bronx
Like
born.
I think I'm just used to a little bit of chaos. Like growing up, I grew up in
Okay.
a chaotic
Chaotic.
home,
Yeah.
so for me that's normal. If you grow up in a very like prim, proper, very calm household, you will think what I'm about to say is I look lost my mind, but I haven't yet. So what I would do in my I just
Arguably yet. No, I literally told my therapist yesterday, I was like, I think the reason why I struggle with like being an entrepreneur sometimes, like what we talked about earlier, is like in high school and in college and law school, I had so many things on my plate that I did not have time to think. Like my life was chaos and I thrived in it. I needed the structure, I needed the chaos, I needed like shit in my calendar to function. I needed to be busy when I'm the one making my schedule and I'm like, oh, I don't have to work today because I can take it off. And then like I literally would create chaos in my life because I was just bored and like I needed to do something with my day. So like I'm with you. And I'm a Sagittarius, um, Latin family, very chaotic. Like I completely agree with you. But
yes. Yes, so what I did my senior year, okay, so my day, so I would wake up around 7 or 8. I would try to like run on a treadmill, and luckily that treadmill was in my apartment building, so I didn't have to like go out too far. I'd wait, get ready, go to class. I'd always have class like from like 9 to 12. And then from like 1 to 3, or in the afternoon time, I would do like either my unpaid internship, but my internship was only like 20 hours a week, so it really depended on the day. And then I would cater for, with events that I would cater for would start at 5, but the previous day I'd already cooked everything. So I would spend my nighttime catering, like preparing for the events and like cooking all the food. And I mean, there were times where I would stay up until like 5 a.m. to make sure the order was perfect, just because I'm a perfectionist. And then, but when I would sell my cookie dough, because that was um like my number one bestseller, every Sunday I would spend like an hour or 2 hours just making cookie dough and like preparing it and just putting it in my freezer. Because the best thing about it is it would last for 2 months in your freezer. So I would just make a huge stock. So my half of my freezer was cookie dough. Like always, it was always cookie dough. Like if you lived with me, you're gonna open the freezer and just
You're
see
gonna take
cookie
home
dough.
cookie dough. Take it. It's
Right,
too much. Yeah.
right. My senior year is when I realized that the cookie dough was like the main product, and then I just started making that in bulk and selling it, and it would always sell out. Like I always had at least 10 dozen cookie dough in my freezer at all times. And then people would start realizing like, oh, I could make pies, I could make some like dal, because a lot of people love Indian food and Kashmiri food and they didn't know how to make it. So I would make that for them. But that was when my relationship with that client like grew more. That was like a month in. And then for like events that I would cater for, it was always desserts. Like no college student wanted to eat healthy food at an event. So I made like a bunch of desserts. And luckily when you're baking, like you just have to make everything, put in the oven, and then for that hour I like either do homework or I'd clean the kitchen. I took great classes in college, but at a certain point there's only so much you can learn from a book than learning like speaking to someone else. And so a lot of my clients were from like different cultures, they were from different countries, and then I'd meet their roommates because when I would deliver, they live with like different people, right? So this is so crazy. When I graduated from college, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much time because
Yeah.
I
No,
wasn't
literally, that's how I feel
I
sometimes.
wasn't so busy doing all these other things. So now when people complain about work, I'm like, actually, I was busier in college because I was doing so many different things now. But I'm so happy I had that experience because it was really such a great time. And even now, there's people who still know me as Medha Cooks. Like they don't know, they see me as like the cookie dough girl. So
Yeah.
it's great.
I
Yeah.
want to try this cookie dough. That sounds super.
It's so addictive. It's
Next time
so
you're in
addictive.
Miami, when you come in the spring, can you please like come over to my house and we're making cookie
We
dough?
can make it. Yes.
It's just so freaking cool to see people who have well-rounded and diversity of experience because like you said, like getting to know your clients, getting to know your customers, what they like, their interests, their goals, all of that is transferable. Even though it's a
Mhm.
cooking business, that's providing a service. It's providing a
Right.
good and a service.
Right.
And as a lawyer, you're providing both a good and a service. The good
Mhm.
is the legal services, and then the service is the actual everything else that you're doing for them. And
Right.
it's so transferable, and it's important to recognize that like law school teaches you how to think like a lawyer, and so
Mhm.
college to an extent teaches you how to think for yourself and be an adult. It's you learn so much more, to your point, outside of the classroom. It's not about
Right.
textbooks. It's all the skills that you learn, learning to run a household, cook and clean for yourself, learning how to work out, learning how to budget, learning how to time manage yourself, learning how to present yourself and show up at an office, clock in and clock out, how to send an email. Like there's so many things that you're learning in college and in law school that are going to transfer into everyday life. And to add that on as a layer of being a business owner, that is so invaluable. Even if you never run your own law firm or run your own business ever
Mhm.
again, those are skills that you can relate to clients who are business owners
Right.
and have to consider those things. You can understand that better in the services that you're providing to them. And I think what you said of you felt that you had to work in your degree. If you spent 4 years studying diplomacy and you had to work in this job that you hated because it's related, it's like yes but no, you don't. Like
Right.
90% of the time, like the career that people end up in is not related or doesn't even exist yet. Like my job didn't exist when I
Right.
started law school. It did, but like not to the extent that it does now. And
Mhm.
you get to create that for yourself. But
Right.
there is value in working in the degree that you created. But if you are unhappy and there's other things you could be doing, like what's more important to you? Like having the wherewithal to know what's important to you and your goals in life and your ambitions and what fulfills you is going to take you so much further than just pursuing a degree or a prescribed path in any given profession. But when did you scale down the business? Like, when did you realize, okay, I want to go to law school? You said 2 years in between college and going to law school. Was that always what you wanted to do? Like, when did that happen and
No.
catering business slow down?
So what happened was I interned at the Canadian Parliament like after my sophomore year of college, but I worked in like international human rights and immigration. Whatever report I write up, a lawyer had always had to read over what I wrote and like edit it. But the thing is, that lawyer was like a corporate lawyer. They didn't have like a degree like a history of international relations background like I did, and so I was always thinking like, oh, like I always have to go through this lawyer. It's so irritating. Why don't I just become the lawyer and make it easier for me? So at first I wanted to be like a international human rights lawyer, but then I learned that they don't get paid. So I was like, okay, we can't do that. But then I always like after that I kind of knew I wanted to go to law school, but I just had no desire to like study for the LSAT during college and go through that whole application cycle. And then once I graduated from college, May 2020. Obviously, the pandemic was happening. I got my job in like domestic policy because I was supposed to be a diplomat in India, and a week later, COVID started, so my job was rescinded. So I had to like go back to the drawing board and like start applying to different places again. And then while I was working that job, I was like, you know what? Like one of my close friends, she's also an attorney, and she was supposed to be international human rights, but then her job got rescinded because of COVID and started working like personal injury and like real estate. But because she was an influencer, a lot of influencers would come to her for their contracts. And she started doing her own thing, like having her own law firm, reviewing like contracts for influencers. And she was like, Medha, like a lot of people trust you because they're a catering business. They will also trust you when it comes to the legal matters as well because they have a better relationship with you, and people are usually just scared of attorneys. And so she was the one who's like, you should do your own thing. You should, you could be a lawyer for creatives, and just like planting that idea in my head. And then finally I was like, you know what, like I do want to be in a more creative field. Like I want to, like when I'm working, I want to have fun. Like I want to, even if it's like going through a contract that's like over 30 pages, like it can be slightly irritating, especially if you're doing it at 2 a.m. But like I want to work with people that I enjoy working with, like my colleagues and my clients. I want to have good relationships with them, and I just want to like have fun. And so I just thought like being a lawyer for creatives, like I always love being around like different artists, musicians, even like chefs and people who do like just out of the box things. And like I want to spend more time with them, and like I can be like the bridge between the legal world and that world. So I just wanted to like create my own path and do it that way. And then I was in my job that I didn't like for like 10 months, and I quit. And I took my catering business full time. But then I was realizing like I actually wanted to like go to law school like right now and like just see how that goes. So I paused the catering side of my business right now. I still have my food blog that's still up and running. Like once I started law school, just because like trying to cater in law school is a lot. Especially like I don't have a licensed kitchen in Cleveland, and the licensed kitchen that does exist in Cleveland, I've heard bad things about that
Yeah.
business. I don't want to like mess with them, but also I used to love cooking, like love it so much, but I think because I was paid to do it for so long, now when I cook and I don't get paid, I'm like I'm being used, even though I'm cooking for myself.
Yeah.
So I think now like I've taken a step back from that now, but I've always wanted to have a cooking show on YouTube just to like have my own creative control over it. And actually, this Monday, have you been to the You've been to Creator Comedy in New York City's events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause we met there once. And so I just met a girl there who like she's a full-time HR professional, but she also has her fashion blog as well. And I was telling her like, oh, I really want to like have more presence online and having my own cooking show on YouTube one day. And she was like, you should start posting more on Instagram because actually I always use social media as a marketing tool for my businesses. I never really saw it as a place to just like post and like have fun because I never had that
Yeah.
aspect to me. So I kind of stopped posting on Instagram for a while. And then Instagram like just gets a little annoying sometimes. I feel like
Yeah.
for whatever. Yeah,
Trust.
it's not as fun as like 2012. Like you could
No.
post and like all the people that needed to see your post saw it. Now it's not. I don't feel like it's that
No.
way again
At all.
at all. So I feel like you have to be more. There's a certain technique you have to do. Like you have to do like certain videos, edit a certain way, the call to action, your hook. It has to be so scripted to the point it like takes out the
It's
joy
not,
out of
I
that.
honestly, I hate that side of it. That's why I hate social media right now.
Right.
Because I work in it, but it's to your point. Like,
Just too
I,
scripted, like to the point
it's,
where it's like it
it's
feels
not
like
fun anymore. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
why I'm so glad I decided to pursue more the business side of, and like the legal
right,
side of the industry,
right. Me
because
too.
it took the joy out of creating for me.
Yeah.
And I had to separate my law firm account from my personal, because like the law firm account is very marketing heavy, and I'm like, I still want to have an account that, like, if I feel the spark to create a video, like, I want to be able to do that. Some people can do it together. I personally, it's just easier for me to have
Right.
different accounts.
Right.
But it's funny that you went the opposite way. Like, for me, it was like I was a creative first, and then I realized, like, I was always going to go to law school, and I was going to do commercial real estate and potentially like politics and be a lobbyist, like diplomacy, State Department, all of that stuff. Like,
Oh,
history
no
has always
way.
interested me. I get emails from the State Department every single day. And as an aside, the guy I'm like seeing now works in that world to some
Hmm.
extent. So like, it's even more so because we talk about it, and I'm like, stop emailing me. It's every day, every day. So it's funny that was like your like thing. I saw like I can share my life online and my travels and my like fashion and beauty, and like still be a lawyer and a law student, and like, so the fact that you're like opposite now, it's like I can go back to creating like content for fun about my cooking as like an extra thing I do in addition to
Hmm.
my day job is really cool.
Right.
And like, yeah, like you
Right.
can totally have like your cooking show, you know,
Yes.
on YouTube or whatever. And if you monetize it, cool. If you do it just for fun because it's your
Hmm.
hobby business that you can do, like, that's cool. It doesn't have to be a money making business if that's genuinely your passion, and then you
Right.
have your day job. And
Right.
I think it's like you, like Selena Gomez did that. Like, she has like, she has multiple careers. Like
Right.
Amal Clooney, she has a whole side career as like an influencer and fashion. Like, she's super fashion.
Icon, basically. Right.
She's doing all these really cool things, but she's still a full time human rights lawyer.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and like, she's my queen. She's my idol. I love her so much. Um, like, you can be multiple things. You can be multifaceted. There is
Hmm.
no, especially in the legal profession, like, it's always going to tell you you have to do, you have to be just one thing. Like, no, we as
Right.
women inherently are already multifaceted, and with social media, we're allowed to have passions and hobbies and things
Right.
just for fun. And if we make money off of them, by all means, cool. I think that's part of why, I don't know if you've seen like the whole drama with like the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I think that's part of why they're getting so much hate, is
Hmm.
because men don't understand, or people in general just don't understand, how a woman can make money on social media and provide for their family just by being themselves.
Hmm. And you can make a lot of
You can make
money
a lot of money.
very quickly. Yes.
You like, you can just do it for fun and make money off of it. And like, if you want to make that your whole career, cool, by all means, go ahead. But if you also want to do something else, then that's cool too. And if you want to combine them and make a business built off of your personal brands, even better. Like, there is
Hmm.
no one way to do things anymore. And just because
Right.
you feel limited and trapped by your limitations doesn't mean you should put those on other people. So I love that that has always been something that you're like, I'm just going to do a million different things at once and
Yeah.
see what is
Yeah.
I'm passionate about, and like lean into that.
Also, I feel like this keeps life just more fun because I cannot sit still. Like, even from when I was a little baby, I could never sit still. So actually, that's actually why I became a figure skater. Is because in preschool, I would talk way too much and always be in timeout. And like the teacher's telling mom, she's like, "I'm gonna kick Maida out of the class because she just does not stop talking." So my mom had the brilliant idea, because we live literally 4 minutes away from Detroit Figure Skating Club. She had the brilliant idea of waking me up at like 6 a.m., taking my sister and I to ice skating lessons in hopes that I would expend all of my energy at the rink, and then I'd go straight to school. And so actually, like, I started to like calm down in preschool a little bit more. So that's literally how I started ice skating, which then is funny because then it led me to my catering business, which led me to where I am now.
Yeah.
It's
No,
because I couldn't sit still. Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. And if you look back, there is a through line to everything. And
Yes.
I think by having your goals and ambitions be in your head and be part of your focal point, you're able to see what that through line is. You're able to check any opportunity that comes against that through line. And like, the first time I really started realizing that was in law school. When I looked, I was a 3L, and I had started the podcast. I had just started it. And I was I was like looking at my calendar and it was literally this time of year. It was Hispanic Heritage Month. I was president of LASA, so I'm running an organization. I have to put on this event that I created 2 years ago. I have my podcast, I have school, I have work, I
Mhm.
have all like my own blog and like content creation. Like I had so many things on my plate and I was like, what is the like goal here? Like with everything I'm doing, like I need to start taking some things off of my plate, but which ones are gonna
Mhm.
have to go? And I started realizing if it's not going to allow me to get to my goals, or it's directly like related to them, like a job or something, like or school, like I need to do it to graduate. If it's not going to allow me to get something I need to get to my goals, or it's not something that is going to add valuable skills to my that are going to allow me to reach my goals, like if it doesn't make sense, then that has to go. And so I learned at that point, like certain organizations that I was a part of at school, I needed to stop being an active member or leave the organization because
Right.
I couldn't contribute time to that anymore. I was mentoring a lot of like high school and college and like other law students. And I was like, there has to be a better way for this. Maybe I can do the podcast or, you know, like I think that's really important is when you recognize what your goals are, it's easier to check everything and understand. And then you look back and you're like, okay, that made sense. Like dance allowed me, like we talked about earlier, discipline and, how to present yourself, talking to anybody, networking, letting your ego go, taking up space. All those lessons that we talked about at the beginning, like that has allowed me in college to, or in high school, even all AP classes. And I was dancing every night after school. I would go to bed at 2 a.m. after doing AP classes, homework, and I would go to school and I would do it all the next day and I would compete and I would do all my things. And then in college, I was in a sorority. I was really involved in the sorority. I was really involved with the fraternity across the street that I was really close with. I was a top fundraiser at Nighthon, like our dance marathon. And I had internships every summer and during school, I was a hostess and I was able to do all these different things. And that continued in law school. And then all of like the lessons I learned as a fundraiser, as a networker, being able to talk to a sick child and their parent who's stressed and the hospital and, talking to tenants and clients who they're plumbers or whatever in college. Like I was like working at a property management firm and I had to like
Mhm.
send out electricians to the tenant's office or send evictions or write leases. Like I learned how to talk to people in times of need.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like all of that and like learning how to dress myself professionally and learning how to talk to a wall. I was a really talkative kid when I was little. That came into play when I was working in law school as in insurance law. And I was speaking, 90% of my clients were Spanish speakers. Talking to
Mhm.
them, their roof is leaking, there's water coming in from hurricanes, and I'm helping them navigate the legal system in
Mhm.
Spanish. And because I interned for a senator during Hurricane Irma in college, I had some
That's
experience.
amazing.
Like,
Wow. I mean, not the hurricane, but your
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Sorry.
And you start finding where the dots all start making sense. And it's like, if there's not necessarily going to be like, it's not going to look perfect. It's going to look like a little bit of a graph, but like there has to be like that X and Y axis that like these things make sense.
Right. No, for me, like in college, I was super involved. Like I was in 3 student orgs, but I had so much fun. It didn't even feel like work to me. It's only after I graduated, I was like, oh my God, I put a lot of time and energy into these organizations that it did help me. I'm like very happy I had that experience, but I realized like when I start law school, I don't want to be that involved in the student orgs because like before I started law school, as I was actually studying for LSAT, I knew I wanted to go into entertainment world, whether that be the creator economy, film, TV, music, sports, and I had listed down all the potential companies that I wanted to work with, intern with, in all these different like subcategories of entertainment. And so I already knew like who I needed to reach out to, who to talk to, blah blah blah. And I like now my list of companies that I want to work at are over 200. And so I try to reach out to a couple people to each.
Also, the fact that you sat down and did that like is really cool.
Yeah.
Also, it's
Well,
insane.
I had to because I feel like I've pivoted so many times, like from ice skating to catering to diplomacy to domestic policy. I kind of knew like not the shortcut to getting what you want, but obviously you have to work hard. But there's certain ways that you can like reaching out to people before you apply to a company to see if you gel well together. If
Yeah,
you don't vibe, don't apply. Like it's there.
100%.
There's always a different company you can apply to.
Having a
And
plan,
so I just
having a plan,
yes,
being
and
willing
learning
to
how to save
do it.
time
Yeah,
is like
being willing
important.
to take like other paths and like you know take a U-turn if you need to, but
Mhm.
also having a roadmap that to guide
Right.
you, but also understanding that like things are gonna happen and it's gonna change and that's okay.
Hmm. Right. When I decided I wanted to do sports and entertainment, I was like, I'm not going to do music just because I've heard really horrible things about the music industry and how artists are really taken advantage of.
It's also about
How
to blow up, so it's probably a good thing you didn't do that.
Yeah, but then last year I took copyright law. On one day we just covered music law, and I just didn't understand anything that was being said. So I was like, what the hell is this? Like I'm trying to figure this out. And so I just started going to like more events and conferences about music law. I always go to South by Southwest because that's during my spring break time. And while I was there, like musicians are weirdly like naturally attract like they come to like they find me. Like maybe I don't know why, but I grew up playing the piano and I played the bassoon in like high school band. And so I've
You
always
did that too, Jesus Christ.
I know, I can't sit still. I just spin the wheel and I try something new. I think it just keeps things
It's a
fun.
good no, it's a
In
good
a
thing.
way.
Okay, that's a good question. Like, how do you fund going to these conferences and stuff? Obviously, like you have all these other businesses that you are allowed, you're able to take money, but for the average college and law student who knows that they should take advantage of these opportunities, but they don't really know how to get there, whether it's a conference that they have to fly or drive for, like hotels, like how do you go to these experiences?
Right. So what I did is since I knew I wanted to go to law school when I graduated from college, I started already putting money aside in the savings account specifically for like law school expenses. I thought I'd have to pay my tuition in full. And so I just want to keep like let everyone know like so I graduated May 2020 from college and from then to like January 2021, I was living at my parents' house, so I was able to save a lot of money that way. And then when I was living in DC for my job, like I I knew I wanted to I wanted to take my catering business full time, so I was being really, really stingy with my money. Like I'd only spend money on like certain necessities, but everything else, like I would save it. And then I fortunately got a really huge scholarship for my law schools. My first couple semesters, I didn't even have to use like money that was in my savings, to pay for my tuition, which has been really great. What I realized is being cheap about experiences that will benefit me long term, there's no point in me doing that. So I would either use my savings, like I went to Shermeen's event like in 2022. I think that was my first legal conference I paid for out of pocket, but I knew I needed to be in that space just
I'm actually
because
seeing her after this. That's so funny.
yeah, oh, that's so amazing. And so, like, I knew like I needed to be in that space, and they had a student fee too, so it wasn't that crazy expensive. But it's like,
It's
okay,
a
I
good
can.
investment. Viewing it
It's
as
It's investment. It's not an expense.
law school is an investment. These conferences
Exactly.
are an investment. And as a business owner, obviously not to your business, if you let's say you still have a catering business, it's not something you could expense there. But there is certain things on your personal tax returns, like as a law student, like when you file your taxes, like you could put certain things as expenses,
Hmm.
towards your education, towards your future.
Right. And that's what I do actually, because one thing I realized is like I quit drinking, like so I don't drink, I don't have that expense. I don't really like going out to bars or clubs, and my social events like are either conferences, industry events or any like networking event that one of my friends throws just because I've been to so many networking like mixers. So I know have met a lot of people and I'm subscribed to the newsletter and I just see free events. That's my social life. But my law school, they do like they'll give you money. Like if you go with your student org, they'll give you money that way. But if you're trying to go to a conference or an event and it's just too expensive and they don't give out student discounts, I would just email the organizer be like, hey, I'm a student. These are my goals. Like, if you come with a plan, like say, suppose you want to be a sports lawyer and you're going to a sports conference and it's like ridiculously expensive. Just say, hey, I want to be a sports attorney. Is there any way I can help you? Can I volunteer for your event? Or can you give me a student discount? I just want to be in this space. And since you've taken that initiative, I'm pretty sure they'll give you either a discount or let you volunteer for free. And so
Yeah,
you'll
they're
be in
more
that
willing
space
to
for
work
free.
with you. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
they're whatever it is, they're gonna work with you. They'll work with you
Right,
to figure out a way to make it
right.
accessible for you.
Exactly. What I did is I got a new credit card for my law school expenses. So if I pay my tuition with my credit card and I also pay my rent with my credit card. So I get a lot of miles that way. And I just use my miles to buy tickets to the conferences if it's like in a different state. And then I use those miles as well for like hotel expenses. But I try to, if I know someone living there, I'll stay with them. Which if you do that for a year, like the conferences that are happening yearly, you'll end up like making friends with a lot
Yeah.
of people at that place. You'll always have somewhere to stay. And then I always try to stay at um, either hostels where I can stay in a single room, like by myself. That way I'm like around other people, and especially if it's like a hostel chain. Like I like Selena, and I've met so many people through that space just because it's also a co-working space as well. So you
Yeah.
have like people there working, people there who are traveling, but also there's a lot of people who travel and they're like working professionals as well. So I've met so many people in those spaces that I usually stay for free at people's homes now too. But that's only because I need to like keep my expenses low. How can I do that? And so if I'm going to go out and eat, I'm going to go out and eat with other people I met at the conference and just talk to them and I get to know them. So I don't see that as an expense. I see it as an investment. Also, when you go to a conference, you have to talk to people. Like some people just sit there and like they don't talk to anyone. But I always am up and around, like talking to everyone that I possibly can. I always follow up with everyone too, so that and I try to schedule either like a Zoom call or I try to get coffee with them. And then for my coffee, if I'm in New York, I finally got the membership for Blank Street Coffee, where I can get 14 drinks for $17.99 a week. So what I do now is I buy people coffee because it's basically free for me, and that way, like, they take me more seriously because I initiate it. I also buy them the coffee and myself the coffee as well, and so they take me more seriously. But then they start recommending me to like different places. Like that's literally how I got my music law internship right now. I never applied to them. I was just talking to an alum, and she just liked me, and she just called the firm and she was like, "Hey, there's a great student you should hire as a legal intern." And a week later, their office manager reached out to me and was like, "Hey, send me your resume." I sent my resume, and then she was like, "Oh, the lawyers want to speak to you." And literally the next day, I had an interview with like two of the lawyers, and then less than 2 weeks later, I had an internship offer from them. But it was only because I had done all the previous 2 years of work of getting to meet people, just getting to know people, and just going on my way, just being like different environments. And then I finally got this opportunity. That wasn't like they don't have a website. They never posted about their legal internships. Like they have no presence online at all. And I was able to get in because someone knew me and spoke highly of me to the people who made the hiring decision at that firm. So it all works out. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like I'm in a season of my life right now where I'm letting go of the need to have it all figured out or know what's next because I
Right.
can't. With the way the world is going and society, you just never know.
You never
Like
know.
with relationships, you just never know. With friendships, you just never know. With career, like so many things could happen to change your whole plan. Having a plan is good, but being adaptable and willing to look outside of the box is important. And so I'm learning to let go. But there
Yeah.
is things you can do to get yourself in those rooms and in those opportunities. That's why
Mhm.
networking and personal branding is so important. And like everything that we've said, like it's because you're willing to do something a little different. And it's interesting to people. People are like, oh, I would love to learn more. They're going to look you up on LinkedIn. They're going to look up like your catering business and they're going to be like, oh, like I'm curious to learn more about this person. They're willing to take a chance on someone that they know is
Right.
to offer something. If all you do is
Right.
school and you try to do like the prescribed path and like focus on just your classes, but you're not doing anything beyond that, your only route is OCIs, on campus interviews. And that's okay. That's a
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable route, but that's
Right.
a very limited route.
It
You know,
is.
you
Yes.
have to be willing to look outside the box if you want something different. If you want to do something that's never been done before, you have to do things that you've never done and you have to put yourself out there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Too many people, especially in this profession, are very traditional or too afraid. But because, you know, your things have worked out for you in ways that you never even set out to, but just because you were doing things that you enjoyed, like if you enjoy it and it allows you to do things that are going to get you to your goals, like things will work out easier for you because
Right.
the energy shifts around you also. Like,
Right. And I was gonna say, like with social media, one thing that I actually saw on LinkedIn a couple days ago, this one guy, he's like a hiring manager, and he said like if he was in between like an applicant, like they should go to the next round or not, he would check their LinkedIn to see what they've been posting. And if they posted and he liked the way, like you can tell when someone posts the writing style, how they communicate, if they have pictures or videos, you get to know them more than just a resume. And if he liked what they were posting or he found it valuable, they moved up. But then the people who weren't posting on LinkedIn or did not show up in any way on social media, they wouldn't make it to the second round. So it like now like I'm doing this LinkedIn writing challenge, and that has helped me so much. Like now people approach me to talk to me, and they know so much about me, and I'm like, what the hell? But
Yeah.
I always
There's
talk about different
there's
things.
pluses and
So
minuses to
yeah,
that for sure.
yeah.
Um, I think to your point, like there is certain firms or companies that are not going to want you to have a personal presence. You are a member of the firm and the firm's brand is your brand and you're a silent member. Like they don't want you to know or want people to know you. Your clients don't care. Like that's cool. There are certain roles and there's certain companies like that is the very old school traditional way. If that is
Hmm.
something that you want, then that's great. But if that's not something you want, then yeah, 100%. I'm like him. I'm gonna go to I look up their LinkedIn, I Google them, I see their social media.
Hmm.
Be very careful what you say. Like I have to be careful sometimes on threads. Like I will randomly end up on like these like really like long tangents and like God, anybody could see that.
Right.
So being careful how you're presenting yourself. Like people hire people. People work with people. If they don't like you as a person, they're not going to want to work with you. Like I said, there is some firms that don't care and they only want grades and work products and like they don't really give a shit and that's cool if that's your speed. But that's not the future. The way that things are working, it's going to start being a lot more important to show what you offer. And with applications, your personal statement is your interview. It's your chance for people to get to know you. That's why, yeah, LinkedIn is important and seeing beyond the resume who this person is, what their interests and hobbies are, what their values are, what their goals are. You want people to know those things about you because they're also going to be more willing to reach out to you and help you get there too.
Right.
Last year of law school, after graduation, like where are you at like with in your career? Like you've done so many things already. Like
Right.
in an ideal world, where would you like to be?
So for me, I know I want to be based in New York after graduation, and honestly, I don't know what type of industry I want to be working in, but I know I want to be representing like creatives and innovators. And I just want to work with people who are very kind. Like I want to work with people who, if I make a mistake with, it's okay because they allow me to learn and grow. And I just want to be around people who like I enjoy being around, honestly. And I can like speak to them at 2 a.m. and have a great conversation, and I can have a great conversation with them at noon. So just like for me, it's more important. Like I work with people that I genuinely enjoy working with and I can learn a lot from. So that's my main goal. And then representing creatives and innovators. And so wherever that takes me, I'll just go there. Because I feel like once I said like, oh, I want to work in film and TV, and it's like,
Yeah,
maybe I don't want to work. I think it's more important to like who you're working with, and then the really great, incredible opportunities then come to you that way.
100%. And your cooking show.
Yes.
That would be cool. Yeah. I have so many things I want to do. I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going to end up next year. Like, and that scares me, but also is really reassuring that I can continue to reinvent myself
Right.
and that I'm open, that I'm flexible, that my career allows me to be flexible too. Because my life, my goals have changed. And like being open to that. But this has been so amazing. I'm so glad we could talk.
Me too.
What is for someone wanting to go to law school or who is currently in law school, what is your like one biggest piece of advice?
Figure out what you don't like, figure out what you do like, and just focus on yourself. Like, if you ever find yourself gossiping about someone or like trying to find dirt about someone, like, you are managing your energy in not a wrong way, but just not in a way that's actually most beneficial to you. So just take time for yourself, whether that's like wellness, like going to work out, maybe going to therapy, going for walks in nature, or having like a set time where like I know in like college what I would do is like Saturdays I wouldn't do anything work like anything school related. Like I would just try to go out and have fun and have new like do different things and like have new experiences. But just like focus on yourself. Like you are your own competition. And most people who are negative towards you, they're just projecting and they have their own insecurities to deal with. So don't try not to let that affect you as much. But just continuously focus on yourself because once you do that, like one thing about like energy is like I feel like if you just turn all the energy towards yourself, everyone's gonna try to figure out where the energy is going. Like if you're in a room, so like if you're in a room and someone drops a plate and it shatters, everyone looks to that because like the energy just like went everywhere. But if you're in a room and you're just focusing all on yourself, and there's other people focusing their energy everywhere else, people are going to naturally gravitate towards you because you're staying true to yourself always, regardless of what room you're in. So people will start gravitating towards you and like asking questions and trying to get to know you. So I feel like just focus on yourself, like always.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Actually, perfect, like, little, like, parting note. I was on Threads the other day and someone asked, like, how does Emily, like Emily in Paris, like, always get the guy or get, like, how does the opportunity always work out for her? Like, she doesn't know what's going on. They're super unprepared. Like, mind you, all of that is very unrealistic. It's second
Right,
time for a
right,
reason.
right.
But my response was, she's interesting. Her energy, like the whole what you just said about the plate and like where the energy shifts, like she's so unapologetically, authentically a hot mess that people cannot help to gravitate towards that. They're like,
Right.
who is this girl? What is she wearing? Who is she? What is she doing? Like, I want to know more. Like she has really cool ideas. I want to get to know this person. They're going to be attracted to her because she's different. She's an enigma. She's interesting.
Hmm.
If you are giving off that you are open to learning and growing and you are interesting and you give off good vibes, people are going to want to get to know you. Like, as a secondary, like, parting note, like, the guy I'm talking to now, like, I was completely not interested in him. I was not aware, not paying attention. I got into a car
Yeah.
and I was watching F1 on my phone. And this guy's like, who is this person? Like, she was trying to talk to me and I was like, sorry, I'm busy. I'm like looking at the race. Hours later, he finally, like, the race ended. We were at like an event. We were doing our thing. And we like started like a random conversation started and we were like, wait, actually this person's kind of cool. Like, you, like, if you're interesting to someone, they're like, oh, she's not giving me the time of day. Like, I want to know more about this person. But if
Yes, that's
you're
so
so
true.
beautiful, if you're so like in your face and on all the time and trying too hard, like people know that. And it's more interesting to be like kind of like just like silent observer, but like open. And like looking back now, like I wasn't super open because I just back that just wasn't where my brain was at. That's not where I was at, but my energy was intriguing and he took the time to get to know me and it leads somewhere. And like I think with career, with anything, it's like, you know, everything works out the way that it's supposed to because your energy unspokenly, all your actions, everything, it leads up to it's putting energy out into the world, and the opportunities that come you attract, like you're attracting those things. And
Right.
you know, you get to decide, you get to change the course of your life by picking up and pivoting, but be careful what energy you're putting out there because that will come back. And you're going to be taught the same lesson over and over again until you finally get it. But
Exactly.
no, I agree. Like for law students, like let go of the noise, focus on you. If you went to law school for a reason, remember why.
Exactly.
Even if
It's
the
so true.
why, the exact why has changed, or how that why is going to develop, but remembering what your goals are and why you're there in the first place, keeping that at the forefront, and like anything that doesn't serve that, don't give it attention, and it'll work out. But thank you. This has been so amazing. Where can everybody find you?
So everyone can find me on LinkedIn. My username is Medha4, so it's Medhaforce. And then on Instagram, I'm Medha Cooks, so it's Medhacooks. And I'm starting to post more food pictures on there as well.
Cool. I'll link everything below. Thank you guys so much
Thank
for listening,
you.
and I will talk to you all next week.